tell you something. I really didn't see this coming. And by really didn't see this coming, I mean, you could have told me 40 times a year ago that this is how Respawn will be behaving, and I would have slapped you in the face. Because there's no way I would have believed a word coming out of your pretty little mouth about this. Just so you know, before we get started, I am easing into the changes so that people don't go, what is this new channel? The thumbnails are slowly changing, as you can see. The name is Too Tall Desk. It's slowly changing as well. I just got some good advice from some other YouTubers that said don't do it overnight. So we're going to ease into the changes I talked about in the last video. But now I want to talk about something real special. We're going to talk about Respawn and the greatest public relations studio you have ever seen in your entire life. This team would be better off letting Johnny Depp on a late Friday night after a long day of shooting be their PR manager. They would be better off letting Lindsay Lohan do their public communications. They would be better off letting Amanda Bynes be the face of their company than allowing anybody within that studio back on Reddit. There's a huge conversation happening right now over Apex Legends about what gamers are owed, what it means to be entitled, and what is right or wrong in the ways that a company interacts with their customers. There's always this conversation about free content. You get free content here on YouTube, and you click on a video, you don't have to pay for anything. Sometimes you might have to watch an ad, but you don't have to pay for anything. It's a free place open for discussion. Therefore, anything said or any opinions held on YouTube, well, they're not gated necessarily, which means that there's free access to those things, which creates more of a community. But with a game, you're usually paying for the element of community. There's usually a gate in place to kind of corral that community in. And then there's this thing called free-to-play games. Now, where do those stand? For those of you that don't know, Apex Legends through this event locked away a rare heirloom item that basically forced you to spend $170+ just for the chance of getting this item. It requires you to unlock 12 other items so you could get the final heirloom item. It was a mess. So the team at Respawn came in and fixed it by making everything more expensive, but less random, but more expensive. And gamers weren't happy. People responded to this by complaining, and rightfully so. Respawn, at the very beginning of all this, and EA were all like, we're going to have a game that doesn't over-monetize itself. We're going to have a game that's not too aggressive with these things. We just want you to enjoy the game. This does not coincide with those statements, not one bit. Do I want to pay $170 for a axe in a game that's virtual? Honey, no I don't. No thank you. So, Respawn decided to respond on Reddit and forums, and it went about as spectacularly poorly as it possibly could. Now, I do want to point something out before I get into this. One day they could say we were hacked, or those aren't our accounts. I have no way of personally verifying that these people were the people behind the keyboard, but they certainly seem to have come from their account. So let's get into what was said. I've been in the industry long enough to remember when players weren't complete A-hats to developers, and it was pretty neat. I forged a bunch of long-lasting relationships from back then. It would be awesome to get back there, and not engaging with toxic people or asking how high when a mob screams jump is hopefully a start. That comment is from Respawn's project lead Drew McCoy's Reddit account. That's his account. He works directly at Respawn. He's one of the higher-ups there. So let's continue. Hey everyone, found the private part I was talking about. It actually says something else, but you know, if I say that, then maybe kicked off this platform. So I'm gonna avoid that. I'm not going down with this shit. Guess what? I didn't even read your comment except for the first sentence and the last. This kind of garbage doesn't warrant a reply, but lucky for you, I already made a comment about this earlier. Go find it. Continues. Being that we are, in my opinion, incredibly generous with the amount of free stuff we give out, including legendary skins, yes, there is a price point for any product that the market will bear, and we're definitely in the neighborhood with other games. Listen, sweetheart, I don't know what other games you're talking about, number one. But I don't know of many items gated behind $180 paywalls. So I would love to see some citations there, maybe a reference or two, because I'm not seeing it. Number two, he says much more, and we'll get there in a second, but I want to address this directly. Two things here. Number one, I don't think it's a good idea to ever blanketly call your customer base or the group of people that are, this is on the Apex Legends subreddit, by the way. So the hardest core fans of your game, your biggest supporters, I don't think it's ever a wonderful idea to insult all of those people. I think that's obvious, but more importantly, I think it's about time before we get to the rest of his comments to talk about what it means to offer something to players, as he puts it. What it means to give players something in a free game. Now, you can play Apex Legends totally free. You absolutely can. But it is worth pointing out that you also can't avoid seeing these systems, being asked to interact with them and being asked to engage with them. More importantly, it is most worth pointing out that Apex Legends' sole point of progression is cosmetics. The sole progression system in the game is entirely cosmetic. It is built around these systems. The game itself is literally built around a cosmetic progression system. You can't pay to win. You can't unlock better weapons. What you are unlocking is better skins, better looks. You're unlocking fashion, essentially. And that's all well and good. That's wonderful. But to imply that we are being given something by being given the opportunity to play your game that you put out there for free, and we are being ungrateful because we don't like when you insult us by blocking things behind $180 paywalls is absurd. If I offer you a piece of pizza from my box and you go, how much? And I go, nothing, man, just take it. And as you're eating it, I slap the shit out of you. That piece of pizza was no longer free. It came with a price. Better yet, if you say, can I have a piece of pizza? And I say, sure, no charge. And I hand you a slice. But as I'm handing it to you, I spit all over that piece of pizza. Maybe, just maybe, even though the pizza itself and what was there has not changed, my attitude towards it after seeing it be spit on has. What game developers fail to understand at this point, surprisingly, in 2019, is that the community you build has a lot to do with how you approach your game, how you treat your game as a developer and a publisher. If you treat your game like a cash cow designed to get money out of people, that is how people are going to look at it. So even if the underlying game is good, if the reason people should stick around is the progression system that's based on cosmetics that you're seeping in just the most disgusting stuff possible, people are eventually gonna go, maybe that piece of pizza is no longer worth it now that you've spit on it. But let's continue. There is a wealth of data available on how monetization works in free-to-play games, and we ourselves have run tests by putting skins on sale in the store. The amount of people who spend is crazy low. Most of y'all are freeloaders, and we love that. And a change in price doesn't move the needle. Most of you all are freeloaders. It's worth pointing out no one said that word in 3 decades, but we're gonna move on and then come back to that. So the actual Respawn community manager, Jay Freschetti, comes onto Reddit and basically does the same thing. No damage control here. So it's fine for you all to call us liars, full of stuff, and other personal attacks when we communicate an apology and update to the event. But we're immature when we call people out on it? Got it. He continues to say you should work on your reading comprehension to somebody else. Now these last 3 statements, made by 2 different people from Respawn, struck the largest nerve in me. So, if we don't spend money on the game that you're saying is free, we're freeloaders. So, your game is free to play, except you have the expectation that it shouldn't be. That's essentially what you're insinuating, right? And you love it that we're freeloaders. You took a derogatory term, intentionally used that derogatory term in the context of other derogatory statements, and added, we love it because you thought that might make it sound better. It's like saying, oh, you've gained 90 pounds. You're fat, but you know what? I kind of like that. There's an objective insult. There's no real way around that. But let's look past that. And let's look into what Mr. Freschetti said about the way they engage with their community. He says he doesn't understand how it's okay for the gamers essentially to complain and personally attack them and voice their concerns, but they're not okay to call it out. Listen, Frechetti buddy, that's how this works, actually. I'm not defending personally attacking anybody. You should never, ever, ever do that. Ever. But it is worth pointing out that you guys make the game that people spend their money and time on. If I open a store, and it's a grocery store, and I stop selling groceries, and people start complaining, I can't really look around and be like, you know what? It was all good last week when I had the groceries. Of course it was, Mr. Frechetti. Your job as community manager is to be a voice for the community, not attack it. That's your job. And you might argue, well, my job is never to be attacked. Well, that is true. Here's an idea. If you're going to ignore what everybody wants to do in your game, why not ignore what they're saying about it? It's that easy. You seem to not care about the direction you're taking your game, so why not just let everything else slide off of your back as well? There is no business that gets customers by insulting the people they want spending money on their things. There are a lot of times where it's okay to insult somebody. Maybe they've cut you off in traffic. Maybe they've kicked your baby. I don't know. What I do know, however, is the time to insult your customers is not, hey, we're spending money on your thing and we don't like this. That's not the time. That's the time to perk up and go, maybe if we want them to keep spending money, we should make them happier. Game developers and publishers have developed this attitude where everything that gamers say must be wrong because whatever we're doing must be right. Gamers and developers are entitled. They expect too much. What's absolutely absurd to me about this is that these people, including the people defending these actions, are people that don't seem to look around in every other industry. If I buy something from Best Buy and it doesn't work, I expect to be able to return it. I can't even do that with a game. If I buy a car and 3 weeks later it starts to break down, I expect it to be fixed under warranty. That's my right as a consumer. If I'm renting an apartment and suddenly the roof starts leaking, I expect it to be fixed because I'm paying for that thing. The argument of, oh, well, you just don't have to buy the microtransactions. That's true. But if there's a product that you spent money on, spent your time on, or engaged with, you have done something for that studio and developer that they want you to do. What game developers and publishers view as entitlement is really just consumerism at work. We're not entitled. When we buy, let's get out of Apex Legends for a second. When we buy a $60 Destiny game and you continue to change it and degrade it after we've made our purchase, after we've sunken our money, we have every right to be upset. We have every right to be annoyed. We have every right to have a problem. We paid for something and you're not giving us what you promised. And it's the same thing with Apex Legends. We may have spent some money on the game. We may have been playing the game. Either way, our complaints are valid because we sunk our time, money, or energy into this product and you have degraded that thing that we have spent our money, time, and energy on. As consumers, we have a right to complain about it. What are your rights as a business? I'd argue you have the rights to call it out. What I'd also like to point out is that if you're going to misrepresent the complaints, if you're going to misrepresent your community, you should expect not to have one. You also shouldn't wonder why people are responding to you the way you're responding to them. Really, this fire with fire approach, eye for an eye thing, is not going to work out because there are a lot more people upset than you have working in your office. And at the end of the day, gamers don't forget. We have seen things fall apart. Yes, oftentimes they make purchases they shouldn't make. We do things we shouldn't do in terms of not voting with our wallet. But at the end of the day, this is a free game, and it's not done particularly well recently. Gamers are entitled is a dumb argument. It's a dumb argument because it's a blanket argument. It's not one that's actually substantiated. It can be substantiated that you indeed are negatively changing things that people have spent money on. You are negatively changing things people have spent their time and energy on. That can be substantiated and verified and validated. You cannot substantiate what you're doing when you paint an entire community the way these people at Respawn did. Am I telling you not to play Apex Legends? No. Am I telling you maybe not to try to speak with them? about next to anything because I don't think they want to hear it, yes. As always, now I want to know what you guys think about this episode of Too Tall Desk. Do you think this is a good thing that they're standing up and saying these things? Do you think maybe they're not doing what's best for their game? Do you even play Apex Legends anymore? Are you interested in it at all? Let me know the answer to any of those comments down, any of those questions down in the comments below. Let's have a real conversation. As always, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and press subscribe because you can see more Too Tall Desk stuff. Like I said, the name is slowly changing. The thumbnails are slowly changing. I'm trying not to do it overnight so that people still know what channel this is. I am trying to steer people, however, into using the name Too Tall Desk so that the transition makes sense, so that people aren't like, what channel is this? Where did this come from? If everybody starts to use Too Tall Desk name, then people will know, hey, that's what this is. But, you know, I feel like YouTube's algorithm isn't going to love the change anyways, so there's that. Yeah, anyways, subscribe so you don't miss any of that stuff. The little notification bell helps because otherwise you never see these videos. So yeah, notification bell. That'll also make sure that as we change everything here, we get rid of those baity thumbnails and the stupid titles. You'll still know that this channel is me. I don't want people to see this stuff and not know what the channel is essentially. So yeah, and until next time, guys, I'm out.